Coming up on this week's Elder Scrolls Weekly, we take a look at some fresh new gameplay, we talk about MMOs for beginners, and we look at character creation. Hello and welcome to the Elder Scrolls Weekly. I'm Dan Wheeler and I'm joined today by Andy Kelly. Hello.
Hello.
You alright?
Good.
No Matt today because he is at QuakeCon playing the game.
Yeah, he's actually getting exclusive access to Elder Scrolls Online, which is exciting.
So you can hear all about his thoughts and opinions next week.
Yeah.
If you come here exclusively for Matt, I'm sorry, you should probably back away now.
Yeah, but if you can do without Matt for one episode, then please keep listening. Dan will be a fine replacement.
I'll do my best. We've got some really good stuff for you today, some new screenshots, some fresh gameplay. We're going to talk a bit about how an MMO compares to Skyrim.
Yeah, so if you've never played an MMO before and you're kind of like, why should I play Elder Scrolls Online? I'm going to explain what the hell an MMO even is to Dan, who's never played one before.
Yeah, my MMO history is a bit clouded. The first Guild Wars I played for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was free, so I wasn't as scared to start throwing down, a tenner a month on it.
Yeah.
The Old Republic I played for a bit because I love Star Wars. But I've never really got into one, and I think, having played it, we both played it, haven't we? I think this could be the thing that bridges the gap between me and my fear of MMOs.
Yeah.
So you can talk me into that. So let's get stuck in with the gameplay.
Yeah.
So this is the fresh B-roll we've got today from Bethesda.
Yeah, brand new footage, and as with all the Elder Scrolls footage, they've got some environmental shots. They love those environments. Yeah,
some of these are new. I don't really want to say specifically what areas they are because I'll probably get it wrong.
Yeah, because some of these areas haven't been seen in an Elder Scrolls game with modern visuals. So the cities that you saw in the old Elder Scrolls games,
Arena or Daggerfall.
Yeah, were like big blocky masses of pixels. So it's hard to tell. I mean, like that kind of marshy, stormy place could be Black Marsh, where the Argonians are from.
Yeah, and additionally, this is also 1,000 years before.
Yeah,
the likes of Oblivion and Skyrim.
And that kind of looks like a deserty place, so that could be Hammerfell, where the Red Guards are from.
Yeah, snow, Skyrim.
Yeah, that's almost certainly Skyrim. Oh no, actually, there's a kind of volcanic thing going on the mountain there, so I don't know.
Well, who's to say a mountain isn't a dormant volcano?
Yeah, maybe 1,000 years ago, the throat of the world was an active volcano. So there's a really good amount of variety here, and I think we said in one of the previous episodes that that's really good for people who play MMOs for the exploration, because you're going to be travelling between this quite amazing scenery once you reach the high enough level to venture forth into them. And there's also, it's still pretty, there's a lot of standard fantasy stuff here, gloomy dungeons and stuff, but I really like this desert environment, because we've never really seen the home of the Red Guards in Elder Scrolls before in any kind of impressive detail.
It looks really nice as well for an MMO, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm really surprised. It's been looking better and better, because when with an MMO you expect a certain degree of the visuals being downgraded slightly, but it's a really handsome looking game. I'm quite impressed.
And this is the first time we've seen the conversation system. Andy, you're familiar with this because you've used it, have you?
Yeah. When I played it, I did a few quests involving conversation trees, and it's kind of like it does that. It's not quite as bad as Oblivion, where it does it crash zoom onto their face. So it's kind of more like Skyrim's, where the world keeps going on in the background. I mean, it has to because it's online, but it's an impressive amount of NPC variety. We're going to be talking about character creation later, and I'll explain why that is. But it feels like every NPC you talk to feels like a unique character, as opposed to in a lot of MMOs where you've got a default. In World of Warcraft, you've got all the trolls, quest givers, or whatever look the same with slightly different colours, or whatever. There's a lot of variety, so it kind of feels like a proper Elder Scrolls game where all the NPCs are voiced and have a little bit of personality.
Did you get any indication of the amount of voice actors they're using?
No, well they always. I mean, I've always thought Elder Scrolls kind of makes a rod for its back by voicing every NPC, because you get loads of you get one actor voicing every character from a certain race, so every Argonian sounds the same, every Nord sounds the same, but that's the result of deciding, hey, we're going to voice 1,000 or 2,000 NPCs. A lot of the voice actors sounded familiar when I played it. They sounded like people who they got in for Skyrim. But yeah, so every NPC is voiced in the same as Old Republic, which is again an expensive and ambitious undertaking for a developer, but it's better than just having little windows of text that you'll probably just end up skipping. Once you've played the game for a certain amount of time here, you actually feel more immersed in the story because it's been relayed to you by decent voice actors. I wouldn't say it was like, you know, award-winning, it's not like The Last of Us, but it's still pretty good as far as Elder Scrolls go. You always expect a slight level of like soap opera level acting, but
yeah, I guess as well, you know, saying the voices are familiar from maybe the likes of Skyrim. I guess that helps because you do associate the voice with the character now.
Yeah.
If you hear the voice, you know exactly what the character looks like.
Yeah.
And if you suddenly came up in a Khajiit that had a completely different voice, it would really throw you.
Yeah. I think that they'll probably keep the same and give the Argonians the trademark raspy voice and give the Khajiit the sort of weird accent, and yeah. So here's some first-person stuff.
Yeah, this is and back in Skyrim again, Black Rock Village.
Yeah,
Bleak Rock Village.
Bleak Rock Village in Skyrim. Yeah,
I had a look and I couldn't find it in Skyrim.
Yeah, so I mean, with the way Skyrim is in terms of wars and monsters, it's not really surprising that 1,000 years later, Bleak Rock Village is no more.
And I think it also gives them a chance to take a few liberties with the landscape a bit. They haven't got to be completely true to how Skyrim looks.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to. We've explored Skyrim. You wouldn't want to explore an identical version of it. The first-person stuff is really working well. It's far better than when I played the game. The hands animations are in there. When I played it, there was no hands. It just looks, it looks like Elder Scrolls, and the lighting and stuff in this dungeon is really nice for an MMO.
Yeah, definitely.
And even just in general.
Yeah, you see the dual wielding here. Is that lightning on his hammer?
Yeah, it looks like he's got an enchanted hammer there. The only thing that's different, we were talking about this before we started, is that because it's an MMO, there's no real kind of feedback when you're hitting an enemy. In Skyrim, when you hit an enemy, they'll sort of recoil backwards.
Yeah, stagger backwards. Yeah.
And you feel like you're really whacking them with it. Because this is an MMO, you don't really get much of a sense of hitting an enemy. They don't react much. They wobble slightly, and there's no hit point numbers popping up. I mean, the HUD is disabled on this footage, but all you'd see is your magicka health and stamina bars. You wouldn't see any hit point numbers popping up, so it's kind of hard to get an angle on how much damage you're causing. I think there's a little health bar above their heads.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only thing that makes it. The first person view's spot on, but it doesn't have the same kind of kinetic, rough and tumble feel of the combat from Skyrim.
Yeah, and I think it's probably safe to say there won't be any kill cams either.
No.
But this is the problem, and if you had a character that staggered back every time it was hit, and you had 6 people attacking it at once, it would never stand up.
Yeah, it's just one of those compromises they've had to make for the fact that it's an online game. But they seem to be making up for those compromises by, making it. I mean, it looks beautiful. They've got the first-person view and stuff. They're making efforts to make it feel Elder Scrollsy, which is a term I say a lot on this show. But yeah, it's looking really good. I'm impressed by it.
Okay, so we're now going to move on to something we probably should have covered in the very first week.
Yeah.
And that is explaining the basics of an MMO. And I know a lot of people out there are going to be familiar with how the system works. But you have to remember that Bethesda are looking at this as a way to bring in another audience into a genre they may not be familiar with.
Yeah.
Like me, for example.
Yeah, well, you're going to get a lot of Elder Scrolls people who've put hundreds of hours in, like you, who will fear the idea of an MMO and think that, it's not for me, or it's impenetrable, or I'm not good enough, or whatever. So if you're that person, I'm going to explain why the world of MMOs is not to be feared, and it's actually excellent.
Okay, so I went out to ZeniMax to play it, and I was pretty terrified because I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You've got the developers like walking around and watching you and judging your every move.
Because you would have been tossed into the game without having any of the learning curve. You were just thrown in at the deep end.
Yeah. And I think immediately it was apparent to me that there was a lot of things that felt familiar and that I was comfortable with. Now, obviously, health, the magic, the stamina, I understood all that. Attacking with the mouse works the same way as it does in a lot of games. The hotbar, I was pretty much fine with the hotbar.
Yeah. Well, it's quite scaled down for an MMO in terms of UI and input controls. But I guess the stumbling point will be the actual structure of it, because MMOs are all different in quite minor ways. Really, the structure of an MMO, whether it's World of Warcraft, the Old Republic, Guild Wars, or anything, is the same. The games are the same, where you create a character and you appear on a server in a starting area with other people who've just started the game. And it's always funny when a new game launches, and I remember creating my Guild Wars 2 character when it came out, and it spawned me in the starting area, the human starting area, and my computer just instantly slowed down because there was like 50 or 60 players all like fused together like a teleporter accident gone wrong, like a big lump of bodies, because everyone's like excitedly making their character. So when you make a character, you appear somewhere in a starting area, and then you know, like the structure of any RPG really, you start doing quests, and they're always really easy to start with.
Sort of tutorial level stuff.
Yeah, like they won't like immediately have you fighting big dragons and stuff, you know. So you start off doing like menial tasks, like, so and so monster is invading my farm. Please kill 10 of them, then come back to me. And you know, and it really, what the quest structure is always kind of basic: kill this amount of things, collect this amount of things, but you know, wrapped in a story. And I think some MMOs are better at keeping you interested in the story of it. The ones that aren't as well written, you just feel like you're going through the motions. So I think with a bit of Elder Scrollsy writing to back up the quest, it could be more interesting. So like you do low level quests, then you level up, and when you get to a certain level, you can then move to another area of the map. So you know, the place you start on will be like level 1 to 10 players can do quests in this area. It's designed for them.
Okay, yeah.
But if you ventured out into like the forest next to that area, which is meant for level 20 to 30, you'd get your ass kicked because the monsters were too high level. So you're leveling up to the point where you can move into tougher areas of the map, and that's the progression of all MMOs essentially, where you just keep leveling up, and then you get to. And in between that, you know, you can be teaming up with other players. If you've got friends, you can like meet up, so you can add each other to like a friends list. You know, like a contacts list. You can like join them, and because Elder Scrolls Online is one server, in old MMOs, you have the problem of going, oh well, I'm on the wrong server, we can't meet up. But because Elder Scrolls is all one big mega server, your friends will always be there. And so you can just go, right, I'll meet you by the gates to Daggerfall, and everyone meets up there, and then you can go off and do quests together. And the XP will be, the quests will be shared among you. So really, it's just level up, access new areas, get better gear. It's all about getting better gear. So like, you'll start off wearing like a little leather jerkin, and then you'll get like some shoulder pads, and then you get like some gauntlets, and you get a helmet, and like you'll see your character going from like basic to like high level characters being like massive warriors of death with spiky helmets and flaming swords and stuff. So that it's really just about progression and it's about leveling. That's all it is really.
So, and we'll come on more into characters in a minute. So there's different classes, right, in the MMO?
Yeah. Well, the class system's different in this because they're saying that you don't have to focus on one role, which is, so usually you'll be like, you'll pick a class at the start when you make a character in an MMO. You'll be a wizard, or you'll be a fighter, or you'll be a rogue, or whatever. In this, there are classes, but you can choose to not follow one path. So you could go, well, I want to be a mage, but I also want to use two-handed swords.
Which is really a nod, I guess, to the way that the Elder Scrolls series is going.
Yeah.
Because in Skyrim, you never really were forced down a particular path. I know in Oblivion, you know, you chose your star sign at the beginning.
Yeah. And
your attributes, and your game sort of was kind of built around that, and you could be good at other things, but what you were best at,
yeah.
You know, if you wanted to specialise in one-handed combat, that's what you were best at through the whole game.
yeah, you can make your own class essentially, and so they're bringing that over, which is really interesting in terms of PvP as well, where you'll be fighting players and you'll not know what powers they've got under their belt, because you can't just look at them and go, well, he's a rogue, so I know how to adjust my stats, my tactics to deal with him. You could go, oh, he's just a mage. I'll run in and hit him with my axe, and then he pulls out a double-handed sword and kicks your ass. So that's kind of cool. It's got a bit more. It's a bit more dynamic. But the social element of MMOs is, if you're not playing with friends, the reality is most people just run around on their own.
Yeah. And yeah, which is something that you can do. You're not going to get punished for doing that, right?
Yeah.
So the last thing that we want to talk about today is the character creation, which a lot of people have been asking about. We've done some research. Andy, tell us about it.
Well, I think it might be, or has potential to be, one of the best MMO character creators there's ever been.
I think you have to understand that this isn't in the same league as, the RPGs.
Yeah.
This is a different kettle of fish, to the point where you can't adjust the number of hairs in your eyebrows.
Yeah. It's pretty in depth, but it's not as in depth as some single player games. But it's still, for an MMO where usually the only option is like 10 faces and 10 haircuts. It's pretty insane the amount of stuff they've got going on here. First up, your name, because this is a mega server. Whatever name you want is going to be taken. So they've got a surname system, like Guild Wars. So you can. So if you really want to be called Olaf, and there's 100 other Olafs on the server,
which there probably will be.
Yeah, then you can put in a unique surname and still have the name, which is is smart of them, considering it's going to be all these players on one server. But then it gets into, you've got like two things. You've got your body and your face, and you can alter the body to a point, but you can't make like a Bosma that's taller than a high elf, or you can't. Some of the races' heights are dictated by the law, so you can't like mess with that too much. You can't have like an Argonian towering over a Nord or whatever. So I mean, it does the system is, it can be as complex or as simple as you like. On a really basic level, it's got like a triangle, like you might have seen in Saints Row or Dragon's Dogma or games like that, where you can just drag a cursor around this triangle, whether you want to be fat, muscular, or thin. And apparently you can make like a fat Argonian, which we've never seen before in Elder Scrolls. That'd be interesting. So yeah, but you can't you can't dramatically alter their body. But there's here's a quick list of all the things you can edit. So you got torso, chest, gut, waist, arm, hand, hip, posterior, leg, foot, and neck. So those are all the things you can edit on the body side of things.
Posterior is an interesting one.
Yeah, I guess you could have like an Argonian with a big badonkadonk if you wanted. But yeah, so you can either edit that via the basic simple triangle thing, or you can go into the individual sliders and get busy with it. And I think these sliders mean that the days of MMO characters all looking the same are over, because every character has the potential to look really unique, and your armor adjusts to fit the shape of your body. So if you maximize the posterior slider, and the armor will compensate to fit around it. So that might be an end to that age-old MMO problem of not finding a new piece of equipment and it clipping through your body or something, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but for MMO players it really is, where you're like, I really want to wear this magic helm, but it clips through my ears, so I'm not gonna. So hopefully that's put an end to that thing. You can change the girth of your character. You can change the height, and you got skin color, hairstyles. In the version I played, there weren't that many hairstyles, but it was like early beta. So you got beards, obviously, because you can't have a Nord without a massive beard. Accents, and which is just like little fine details of the face. So that's just the body, which is pretty good.
Wow.
But then you've got the face slider. It also has a triangle thing or a slider, and I'll quickly read out all the things in the face you can edit. It's quite a lot. You got hair color, age, marking, forehead slope, cheekbone size, cheekbone height, jaw, chin size, chin height, eye color, eye size, eye angle, eye separation, eye height, eye squint, brow height, brow type, mouth curve, mouth width, nose shape, nose height, nose width, nose length, ear size, ear rotation, ear height, and ear tip flare.
Wow, that is a lot of things.
I was forgetting how to say words halfway through that. My brain was getting confused. But yeah, so that's all the individual sliders for the face, and you can imagine how with that many options, it's going to be very rare that anyone's going to look alike.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it's going to be unlikely you're going to meet your twin.
Yeah, and this is also good news for, like I said earlier, the NPCs, because same as in Elder Scrolls, NPCs are generated from the same creator. So with that, you're not going to have loads of identical looking people. It's going to make the world feel really rich and diverse.
I think as well as it is something worth spending a bit of time on, because for the first time in Elder Scrolls, it's not just you that gets to ogle at your character.
Yeah.
You're on display to the world.
Yeah.
And people are going to judge you on the size of your ear tip flares.
Yeah. Or your posterior. So yeah, I mean that's pretty exciting in terms of customization, because a big part of an MMO is showing off your character, especially when you get higher levels and you start unlocking like fancy armor and stuff. You want to look cool.
Yeah, and as soon as you incorporate this with all the different armor types and the weapon types and the styles of combat,
yeah,
it's going to be very rare you're going to find two characters alike. I think
it's going to be really, you're going to make some really interesting looking characters, like a big muscular Argonian with like dwarven armor and like a Nord's helm and stuff. You're going to, there's going to be some impressive looking avatars inhabiting this mega server.
Okay, I think that just about covers everything that we wanted to talk about this week. Matt's going to be back next week, hopefully with hands-on impressions of the latest build of the game.
And you can ask him any questions you have, and he can answer it in depth, having had played it.
Yeah, if there's anything you want to know from his impressions, then write them in the comments below this video, and we'll make sure they get to him for next week. Just a bit of housekeeping. Follow us on Tamriel Herald on Twitter.
Yeah.
We'll keep you up to date with any announcements that are made in between the shows, and then obviously cover them in more detail when the shows come around. And Olaf, is going to be back soon.
If you saw the last episode, you may have seen a trailer for Rags to Riches, or rather Olaf, the Cabbage List, because Rags to Riches was the last series. So yeah, you can look forward to the first episode of the Cabbage List premiering exclusively in the Elder Scrolls Weekly.
Yes, so the way we're going to do Olaf this time is we're going to premiere it on the Thursday in the Elder Scrolls Weekly, and then put it up separately on the Friday a day later.
Yeah.
So the first and best place to see it is going to be in this show.
Yeah.
Every Thursday. So thank you very much for listening this week. Please subscribe, and we'll see you again with more Elder Scrolls news next Thursday.